Hi and welcome everyone to Breakpoint. In this video, we'll be looking at dependency checking with VET, and we'll be looking at the advanced part of it. The first things, in the last video, we had already looked at the basic setup installation and how do we run and analyze the results in depth for what VET gives us in terms of the vulnerabilities or vulnerable dependencies that we find in the code that we run. In this demo, we'll look at how do we set the exceptions to start off with in VET and then go ahead from there. So we'll go back to what we had. If you go to SafeDev, their documentation basically calls out you can manage exceptions pretty well here. There may be various scenarios for which you want to manage exceptions to suppress some of the findings which do not apply to your technical context, to the business context, or are not reachable and in some case not exploitable. And you are sure of that. So it makes sense to actually suppress these so that these findings or vulnerabilities in the dependencies don't keep showing every time you run it. So how do you set that up? So essentially, to use the exceptions or to basically ignore those exceptions while running your dependency check, you can call these exceptions directly from the exceptions file. So that can be specified, and then you can simply scan the packages as we were doing earlier. But how do we create this exceptions file? So when you look at this will happen in two steps. First, we will be creating a dump file, and then we'll look at what the dump file has, and then from there we'll generate essentially the exceptions file, right? You can also define that custom, but we will look at that. So first, let's look at creating this dump file. So we'll have so let me just show you the files, the kind of files that we had earlier, the setup that we had. Now, first we'll start off by creating the dump file. So we do the usual scan, path to the repo. In this case, it's demo client Java. And then we look at having a JSON dump directory. So we'll run the JSON dump directory command and also give the path to the file. Basically, where do you want it to be stored? So I'm just calling it at dump file for now. Okay. JSON dump directory. Let's scan. So there has been a typo here. Let's correct it. Now, when you run it, the tool will run and it should be able to give us the dump file. Let's look at what is actually there in the dump file and why does it need this file first to generate the exceptions file. And then we look at the exception file itself as well. So this is the summary of findings that we like always get. Let's see if it actually created any dump file. Yes, it did. So let's get the dump file and see what it has. Okay, it's a directory, but that's about exploring. So when you look at the key file that we see here is actually the Maven Gradle file. This is the default name that you get when you create the dump file. If you look at the dump file, it actually consists of all of these vulnerabilities and a summary for the vulnerabilities, which packages are affected, what is the exact issue, what is the CVE. This is the detailed setup if you want to. So we were already looking at the report summary at different details. We were also looking at what are the different attributes that we could overall have filter it with and get the different packages. Here, you will find all the details, the other details that you usually see in the dependency checkers, right? So all those, that depth of details also you can figure out. So once you have the CV, you can also look at different aspects of exploitability of that particular issue and things like that. So this is something that you will find for the entire set of vulnerabilities that has been found. Now, in this case, what I'm saying is you have to run that, find the dump, and then after you've created the dump file, from the dump file, you can actually query to generate exceptions for all the existing packages. So let's try that out. Let's come out of this. We have to basically do wet query, and from the dump file, in this case, dump file is the name of the directory where we created the default dump file. And here we do exceptions generate. Now this will automatically generate exceptions. Now we have to give the path to path where you want to create the exceptions file out of the dump file. Now let's call it something like exceptions already exists, maybe exceptions2.yaml. And I think that should be good enough. Yeah, so did it actually create the exceptions file? I think it did. Let's look at what's there in the exceptions file. Now, if you look at this, we see an entire set of exceptions by default created for all the packages that were there, that we had. Now, remember, this is just to ease the developers to be able to, keep what they want to keep and discard all the rest. It's just to make the job easier. It does not mean that we suppress all of these dependencies. So here you can pick and choose and, go about what you want to actually suppress. Now, one interesting thing to look at is in the last, this thing we had generated a report, maybe we'll also go through that, the structure of the exceptions file. That means whichever exception essentially that we want to add, we'll have to define the ecosystem, with Maven, Gradle, you have to say when it expires, the ID, this is a unique identifier that we can also define in the exceptions file. The name of the package, this you'll have to write complete, and the version, that also has to be mentioned. Yeah, so this is the pattern in which we can also create, I'm sure the custom file also can be created this way. Now, what I'm doing is, let's take 2-3 of these. Let's generate actually a custom exceptions file. So here, let's say exceptions3.yaml, and we can add this format. So currently just 3 packages have been added in this. And if you look at it, yeah, if you look at it, we have to pick one of the packages. Let's be, say, intentional about one of the packages so that we can look at the final report and see if it was suppressed. Yeah, so let's come out of this. So here we do have the older reports. Yes, so let's just cat report.1. Let's see what do we have that can be suppressed. So maybe let's pick something of lower impact score, which we don't want to see or work with again and again. I see glassfish here. This glassfish package can be suppressed. Let's try and do that. Now, let's go back to exceptions. I think we had created, what is this? No. Let's go back to 3. Yep, this is the one. And here is where we need to work with, maybe create, let's add this as an exception to suppress. So I'm taking this format and trying to work with what we have here. I'm taking the glassfish. One is, this is 2.3.6, so you can simply add that. Most of the cases it will be a copy paste for you. Add the package name here. And rest looks good. I'm also changing the unique identifier for now, just so that, it's taken care of. I think looks good. Let's save this. Now, we have to run the scan again. Let's run the scan again and look at explicitly adding this exceptions file and run. So when we looked at the report, we had the glassfish file, right? The report and report summary. Now let's run this with exceptions path to the exception. That's how we have to go about it. And then you can do your usual scan. So vet exceptions. The exceptions file that we are using is exceptions3. Then we can do the scan in the usual fashion. This is the demo client. And one thing to look at is we can actually also have, for example, the report, because we need to have a report. Okay, let's see what it gives us. Yeah, actually, we can specify a report name as well. Let's try and do that in fact. Yeah, so you say report, and in this case, let's call it report 3 because we are using exceptions 3. So we know exactly the report has been generated for that. So we can compare the report and see if we actually now have this suppressed in the subsequent runs. So once you define the exceptions file and the exceptions from there, all of that gets applied, and then those issues are not highlighted again in the final report. So yeah, so this was report 3. If you look at now, if you look at the report in detail, you will see if you look for glassfish, which is the one TSW, glassfish TSW is the package. That is something we don't find here, right? So as much as you may go for, you will not find it. Let's explicitly try to find that maybe. So once you look at, let's try and do a grep and see if we have glassfish at all in there. So here in report 3, you will see there was TSW2, TSW2. So this one got missed actually. The JAX B1 was already there. This one is again something that you can find. Why did we not find this? You actually don't see that here. Yeah, so if you grep glassfish in report 1, I can understand that we will find both of these. But if you let's also do a nano exceptions 3 file. Look at what we have specified. So yeah, so what we missed was the TSW1. Yeah. TSW2, the entire thing has to be specified. So now I corrected the added the package, the full name of the package here, which was earlier missing DSW. So added the entire name, the version, and now I think we can go about trying to use this when we are doing the run. So here we are using exceptions, explicitly calling out the exceptions YAML file that we created, and then scanning our package with that. Let's look at that. Now in report 3, we should be able to see the suppression that the glassfish, at least the glassfish package, which we wanted to suppress, should not be showing in the report anymore. So if we cat in this case, report 3.md, and then look at the output, you should not be seeing glassfish anymore. Yeah, so that itself is not there. Another way of looking at this is if we just scan it and grep with the glassfish, we should not be able to see the TSW package. So you will find there was another glassfish package with the runtime, which still exists, but the TSW package isn't there anymore. So this was all about having and handling exceptions, specifying those for wet and running that during a dependency checking. That's all for this video. We'll see you all in the next video. Bye.